getting dressed and on my way here, which is when you have these skills, you can solve any problem that you have. And when you can solve any problem you have, you don't have to be worried. You don't have to be afraid. Life is a completely different experience for you. And that's why I am so committed to offering these tools and skills to everybody.
I appreciate that. Worry can get in the way and
Of everything.
Yes. We don't want to say how toxic worry is.
Just that it ruins your life, but other than that, use your imagination, right?
Well, okay, so my first question, Susan, is what is the first key and why is it so important that this is the first key?
Key one is managing your moods. If you are emotionally stable, bringing yourself back to peace when needed, able to be calm 99% of the time, know that when you're triggered to fear, anger, or sadness, you have under 5 minutes to bring yourself back to peace, and you have to do it silently, and you can't communicate with others while you're in this negative, angry, frightened, sad state. When you have these skills, you're able to accomplish so much. And until you have these skills, until you're able to manage your moods, honestly, you're not able to accomplish much.
Well, I've been practicing, Susan, and the word that came up for me was that halt just the other night. That, whoa, wait a minute, see what's going on.
Fabulous.
And I got through that. Halt. I was hungry. I wasn't necessarily angry, but I was lonely. No, not lonely. Wait a minute. What was I? I was alone.
What's the N for? What's the N for? We'll find out.
Yeah.
Well, you know you're nice, so that's it.
So I did that halt, and I was really pleased with myself that I went through your process and came back to peace.
Great, great, great.
That and some ice cream, and I was happy all over again.
And, you know, Gigi, you are the walking demonstration of somebody who calms herself down if she's triggered. You always do that.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you.
You know, it can be done to a fault, by the way. Don't do it to that level. But that consciousness is what we're after.
Exactly. Well, I know that so many people really are literally trapped in fear, anger, and sadness. And what tools do you recommend for them to exit this and live in that joy of our inner peace?
I do teach a lot of skills that allow you to balance out your brain, because that's what we're talking about. And the most successful, the most effective are self-empathy, which is one of the pieces of my 6-part conversation. And I also learned that from Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. It's also part of nonviolent communication. And the other is the 4 questions of inquiry that allows you to literally change your brain. Take a look at the story you're telling yourself and literally turn that story around to something that's more true, more peaceful, and more powerful, which is important.
I love that. That's a great transformation, too. You can go from one mood into where we want to be.
Yeah, and that's the trick.
Now, what is positive expectation and belief, and why do you really say that we all need to live there?
On the emotional guidance scale, which is part of the work of Abraham, number 4 is positive expectation and belief. It's number 4 on the way down to number 22, misery, suffering, depression, despair, hopelessness, whatever it is. So being optimistic is not enough. Being hopeful is not enough. When you finally get up to number 4, positive expectation and belief, that emotional state is the most powerful one until you get to number 3, number 2, and number 1. So that is the entry level to manifesting the life you desire, because you're positive, you expect what you want, You're able to focus on what you want. You have the language that I've taught you to manifest what you want. And with that positive expectation and belief, you actually can get it.
I love that. A frequent song for me is just being able to enjoy expectations of good things happening. Something tells me something good is about to happen. Forget the exact words, but it's a hot song. I love it. Now, what is the number 2 key, and why is that so important?
Something tells me I'm in for something good. That's from our
it.
generation.
That's it.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
From a long time ago.
Not to date us, but right.
Just like, don't worry, be happy, It's simple, but whoa.
That's right. That's right.
Thanks for the help on
You're
that.
welcome.
Okay, now we're going to move into this number 2 and why that is so important.
Number 2, this key is keeping the past in the past. So if we said that number 1 was managing your moods, because you can't get anywhere if you're on a roller coaster, keeping the past in the past is part of the same thing. Because if you're feeling great today, and then you start thinking about yesterday when things weren't so great, and you let yourself go sideways, then you have just ruined your whole trajectory to great success and great joy and inner peace and all that. So keeping the past in the past is essential. It's not optional.
Simply put, that's wonderful. Now, what about people often believe if they can't be happy because of their past and that they believe that they need to work through this? What do you say about that?
Well, 100 and something years ago, it was great to have therapy. It helped a lot of people a lot of times. I certainly was in therapy when I was a kid, when I was 16 or 17. It's great. It's, for many people, the beginning of self-awareness. But unfortunately, unless you have 40 years and $200,000, you're not going to get very far when you consider all the skills that are available today that work quickly. And why? Because you need a different brain. Therapy is working with the old brain, and what you need is a new brain. So if you're in the past and you're talking about your mom and your dad and your childhood and your teacher and your brothers and your sisters and basically all the terrible things they did to you, you've missed the boat because you've got to find out what's going on in your brain. Why are you so sad? Why are you so angry? Why are you so scared? And since the answer is always biochemical, it always has to do with the chemistry in your body. Unless you are diagnosing that with the saliva and urine test that's accurate, and unless you actually take the supplements that are appropriate if you've got some imbalance, and unless you understand that the cause of worry and exhaustion is adrenal, and if you're not taking adrenal supplements, then again, there's a high probability you're missing the boat, wasting your time, wasting your money, going nowhere, while the rest of us who are taking these supplements that we need are feeling better and better and stronger and more energized every single day. And that's something you've got to really think about, because what I realized today when I had this epiphany is one of my other great skills is time management, as you may know. But I'm talking about the time you have available in your life. This maximum of 100 years. Because most of us aren't going to get 100 years. And most of us watching the show have already used up a whole lot of it anyway. So now you've got to manage your time in an intelligent and efficient way and make yourself far more productive if you want to have a joyous, successful, peaceful life. And that means you want to use skills that work quickly. And that is the Heartspace solutions. Very fast, very effective.
What a time saver. That's wonderful. Now, can you describe for us one of the clients whose lives was actually transformed really quickly using your skills that you taught them?
Yeah, I could tell you lots of dramatic stories. This is from someone who's willing to have me talk about it, and she had been abused, violently abused, by many members of her family. And this violent abuse was unspeakable. Unspeakable, horrific, the kind of thing that would scar anyone. And by the time I met her, she was in her mid-40s. She hadn't seen any of these people since she was 17, so that was 30 years. So I taught her the 4 questions of inquiry and the turnaround, and her turnaround, that took her the better part of 3 hours to get it, but her turnaround was, the person who has tormented me the most is me. Since I've been tormenting myself with this story for 30 years, and they only tormented me for 12 out of my 17 years that I was with my family. Now that is a gigantic epiphany. That could never have come from therapy. It only comes from this kind of exercise. And I have had those experiences myself. I was in a relationship with a guy who just simply did not love me, wasn't capable of loving me or anyone as it turned out, and didn't love me. And I had a 45-minute session with somebody who did contextual therapy, which is very, very different from any kind of therapy you've ever heard of, and is almost identical to the 4 questions of inquiry. And in the 37th minute, I looked at Sheila and I said, my goodness, what I call love is not what he calls love. So when I think that I had his love and I lost his love, no, that's not true at all. I never had his love, and so there's nothing for me to mourn, there's nothing for me to suffer about. Now, that is healing, and that was fast, 37 minutes.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really an important factor for people, because a lot of times people are hurt, they get caught up in that and relive it, and the other person is off having a good time.
Absolutely, every time.
Yeah.
Yes, they're not sitting around hoping that you're healed.
No. No concern there.
Because if they were, they would be sitting around at your house, or you'd be at their house. It wouldn't be broken up.
Exactly. Moving on to the next. Well, so how much of the keys to the kingdom have to do with body, and how much with our minds, and how much with spirit?
It depends on you. So, Fred, if you would put up the whole brain map, that would be really helpful, because this depends on how your own brain is wired. Thank you. So if you are very left-brained, that's body, that's the physical. That's what a lot of people call real, and they don't call the other stuff real. If you are very upper right brain, that is the spirit. That's all spirit. So body, left, mostly lower left. Spirit, upper right. And then mind is one of 2 things. So if mind is facts and figures and dollars and numbers and the 2 people who are running for president, then that mind is upper left. But if it's mind where you're being literally manipulated by your negative emotions or even by your positive emotions, that's the lower right brain. So depending on which part of your brain is the most active, you are either more body, more mind, or more spirit.
And that reminds me, it's another way of keeping track of the time, observing where your mind is.
That's right. You bet. That's great.
Now, what is the 3rd key, and why do we need that in order to have a great life?
The 3rd key is trusting and knowing who to trust. Now, a lot of people go with their gut, so they're upper right brain people. Or they go with their feelings. I get a funny feeling. I get a feeling. That's the lower right. A lot of people, however, are much more practical. They look at the upper left, the data, the facts, the figures, the dollars, the numbers. Frankly, I would want you to use all of it before you go into action. Those 3 parts are all helpful. But for sure, you don't want to trust someone based on your feelings and your intuition. You also want to run a background check. If you need to trust someone with your children, if you need to make a decision about marrying somebody or not, you need data. In this day and age, there are too many people walking around with too many skills to separate you from your life, from your money, from your mental stability, from your family, etc. So you've got to go with facts. And then on top of it, use your intuition, and on top of it, see how you feel about it. But please use all of them, not just one or the other.
So how do we assess who to actually be able to trust?
Again, you use all the parts of your brain, and you make sure you've got the facts. You make sure you see how you feel about them, because you might have somebody who checked the facts for you but didn't check carefully enough. So you might get some intuition, or you might get some emotion that tells you something that the facts hasn't shown up with yet. But if you paid more money or spent more time or waited a little longer, you might be able to find out that this person does have, unfortunately, a police record. So that's why I'm saying all of them.
A checkered past, anything can show up. Sometimes I know that people, they really are lost and they can't really seem to find their way, let's say. And this is just not for young people. And this is key number 4. Could you explain this for
You
us?
bet. And key number 4 is knowing your purpose. So in key number 4, knowing your purpose, this is something that most young people can't figure out by themselves. This is something that I help a lot of them with. It has to do, again, with using their whole brain. So they may have a lot of ideas, young people have a lot of ideas, and until they learn how to research those ideas, they may be running off and taking action because the idea is an interesting idea to them without research. And it may trigger in them positive feelings for no specific reason. Doesn't mean it's real, doesn't mean it's valid. So until you get in the habit of having an idea or having feelings and doing research, doing the real hard research, you could end up wasting years of your life. And you could end up in a lot of danger. So when I teach this, it's because I want you to thrive. I want you to do well. I want you to have success. And because I know the kind of mistakes I made when I was young. And I know how lucky I was that I had a mother who was really, really smart and really practical and took the time to work with me. And most people don't have a mother or a father like that. So this is the most important part of key number 4, is doing the research and figuring out if what you think your purpose is a purpose that is actually going to work. You have to make a living, you have to be safe, you have to enjoy it, you have to have some fun, you have to make friends, you have to have some adventure, all of that. And is this idea going to fly?
And of course you enjoy it along the way. Okay, now I know that some people really do love to work and be very active, and some are really committed to working to make a difference. Some love money, and some, of course, use their money to help others. And I'm curious, what causes that difference?
I love that question. I find it so fascinating why some people work for the love of money, which I'm not judging, by the way. It's exciting to them, it's fun to them, this is something that they want to do. And I have a lot of friends and clients who just are really, really successful, and I'm happy to say I've helped them get much more successful. Then there are a whole lot of people who, in order to make money, you have to convince them that it will make a difference. They'll be able to contribute to charity because they just can't get interested. And even if they need the money, they can't get interested, or it isn't real to them. And for people like that, and I understand all of these issues, by the way, sometimes taking money out of the bank and sitting and looking at it in hundreds is really helpful because it becomes more real. Because the concept of money or money at the bottom of a bank statement is an idea to people who aren't upper left-brained. And so you have to learn certain tricks, certain tips, so that you can make it real, so that you can support yourself, have a satisfying and safe life, and make a difference too.
Wonderful. So playing Monopoly helps out in life?
But with real money.
Yeah.
You can't use the yellow and whatever colors it is, pink, whatever, blue.
No. Please explain to us the fifth key to the kingdom and how we can learn by this.
The fifth key is really the most important key of all, in that it is motivating and inspiring others. And everything you will ever need to do, you need help with. You know, there's not a single big thing that has ever been accomplished by you and you alone throughout the entire process. Other people were needed at some point, or maybe every single minute of the way you get there. And so the more successful you are with people, the more successful you are in making a difference, making money to contribute to others. Everything has to do with people. So you must develop people skills, whether you want to or not, and whether you enjoy it or not.
Yeah, try it and it will turn joyful, I'm sure of it, that connection. Now, can you explain the 6-part conversation? That's so important.
Yes, well, what do we do when we want to motivate and inspire people? And you can see the points on the board, thank you, Fred, that when you are motivating and inspiring other people, you have to start by motivating yourself. You have to use self-empathy to calm yourself down, unless this very important point, this issue that you have to discuss with somebody or with people, isn't making you crazy. But the truth is, if it's a really big issue, we usually are a little bit upset. So you calm yourself down. I'm feeling worried, and I really need peace. I'm feeling nervous, and I really hope that I'm going to get their support. I'm feeling confused, and I really need to have some clarity. And then the next part of it, of course, is that you're now going to communicate with them, and they're going to clear things up for you, and you're going to move forward. So next part is empathy for them. Well, Bob, I know that you're really excited about this new project, and I'm so grateful that you've given me a spot on your team. So I imagine that it's most important for you that I understand exactly what our goals are so that I can support you in the best way possible. Is that true? So that is empathy. It's also you finessing for information. And from there, you would work to solve this so you get a complete to-do list from your boss or the project director, and then you know you're going to be able to do a great job for him.